Hi, everybody. My name is Angela Camoes. I'm with PALCUS, and welcome to our FYI 2018 webinar series. We are super happy to kick off 2018 with our first webinar. And today's topic is Portuguese language in the U.S., and it will be presented by two people, João Caixinha from the Institute Camoes and Huma Manati, who is with the American Councils for International Education. I will be a little bit more about both of them in a minute. Everybody is on mute only, and if you could stay on mute, that'd be great, just to help with eliminating background noise and things like that. If you'd like to ask a question, please use the chat module, which you should be able to access if you hover your mouse over the Zoom console. A little black bar will show up at the bottom of your screen, and you see the chat window, and you just click there and you can type your question, and then I'll read out the question to our presenters. And as I mentioned, our presenters are João Caixinha, who's the coordinator for the Portuguese language programs and education affairs in the United States for the Institute Camoes. And this is his, you want to learn more about the Institute, you can go to this website, or you can reach out to João directly. And then we have a special guest, Huma Manati, who is the Assistant Program Manager Assessment and Curriculum Development with the American Councils for International Education, and that is their website and her contact information as well. So welcome both João and Huma. Thank you.
Hi, Angela. How are you?
Good, thanks. Hi, João.
Hi.
And I think we have Huma. She might still be on mute.
Yes, thank you very much.
Oh, great. Hi, both. Okay, great. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to João to take it away and talk about Portuguese language education in the U.S.
Thank you so much, Angela. And I would like to thank, in the name of Camões and our education office here in the United States, to thank you and your team at PALCUS to invite us to be speaking about this topic today, and also in collaboration with Huma Manati from American Councils, because of our partnership with the Camões Institute. And of course, the team at Camões in Lisbon is also very, very happy that we could participate in this webinar today. So maybe
excellent.
Next slide. Thank you so much, Angela.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to present quickly our team in the US for those ones who are listening to us today. And I would like to thank everyone who is actually on the webinar today with us. So in Newark, we have José Carlos Adão, who is our member for the education office of the Camões Institute in the US, as well as Sandra Pires in Washington, DC, and José Rodrigues in Boston. They are lecturers for Camões at different universities in the United States. In the case of José Rodrigues, he's teaching at Boston College and UMass Boston, where we have our Camões Portuguese Language Center. And Sandra Pires is also in Georgetown University, but she also works from the embassy as an advisor for the education office of the Camões Institute here in the US. And also in California, we have Denise Borges and also José Luis Silva, but Denise Borges is basically our focal point for the Camões Institute, because we have a protocol of cooperation with LAEF, the Luso-American Education Foundation, and Denise has been helping us a lot with the West Coast of the United States and all the Portuguese schools and public schools where we actually teach Portuguese. The next slide. So basically what we offer as education office in the US, we do have teaching and learning of Portuguese language in elementary, secondary, and higher level educations, because we do work with different levels of teaching and learning of Portuguese, not only from the public school system, but also with private schools, as well with the Portuguese community schools. And then we also offer pedagogical support and resource centers for Portuguese teachers of US public schools and Portuguese community schools, and everyone who actually need some support and regarding materials or any kind of curriculum or even pedagogical materials can actually speak with us. I've doubled the information on this last piece, but I would like to say that the Camões Institute is a public institution under the Portuguese Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the mission is to propose and implement the Portuguese cooperation policy, education policy, and promotion of Portuguese language and culture abroad, not only in the United States, but all over the world. And we can go through the next slide. So there is the few links that I think are important, because some of the interests of Camões also concerning designing and promoting and supporting and implementing measures to encourage dissemination of different forms of artistic expression and supporting publication of Portuguese authors in foreign languages and giving scholarships to students and teachers of international network. So we have the website for the Camões Institute, which is the first one. And then we have also the Facebook page for Camões Institute today. The social media is really important to spread the word. We also have Twitter account for the Institute Camoes, and also our resource center, which is the CVC, which is Centro Virtual Camões for Portuguese Language, which is like a kind of resource center, which is on the website that I will show later on during my presentation. And then the link for Português Mais Perto. This is a platform that we've just released this academic year in the US. It's a pilot project. So only a few schools were selected to try this program or platform. It's a platform that students can actually learn Portuguese with the school that they are in, or also in the house or with the parents at home. So it's been like a pilot project for us this year. Actually, 8 schools in the United States are working with this pilot project, not only in the East Coast, but also in the West Coast, in California, with Dinis Borges, Tulare Public Schools have signed a protocol of cooperation on that. So it's just a platform where people can also have resources, especially students from elementary and secondary levels. They can have resources for Portuguese learning. And then we can go to the next slide. So the next slide is just a view from the Camões Institute with a very famous sentence from Virgílio Ferreira, one of the Portuguese authors, that says, "From my language we can see the ocean." And this is a very important meaning that, the Portuguese language is also spread all over the world, and we have very important countries that also speak Portuguese, and that we collaborate here in the United States with different diplomatic representatives of these countries as well. And then we can go to the next one, where here I included a few data and information that I think it's really important. Maybe the most important is that Portuguese is the 4th most spoken language in the world, just after Chinese, Spanish, and English. We have at least 261 million speakers of Portuguese in 5 continents, and we expect that in 2050 there will be 380 million speakers of Portuguese. Portuguese is also the 5th language on the internet, so a lot of users of internet users use Portuguese as a language, as a tool for internet. And also it's the 3rd most used language on Facebook. And it's also official language or working language for 32 international organizations. I'll point a few of them on my next slide. And the Camões Institute is represented in 84 countries, which means a lot. It's a big network. And on the side of elementary and secondary education, we have presence in 23 countries, and we have around 815 teachers and 70,000 students. We will go to data next about the US, about the United States, more information regarding that. And, on higher education and international organizations, we have 357 institutions partnershiping with Camões Institute, 644 professors, and 9,000 students. So
these are some impressive numbers, João. I remember when people were touting that Portuguese was the 8th most spoken language in the world, and the fact that it's jumped to 4th is just amazing.
Actually, there is a lot of people that I work with when I go to conferences and workshops in the US, and they still keep Portuguese as the 6th most spoken language in the world, which, for the over last 5-6 years, Portuguese has grown so fast.
Yeah, and it provides even greater incentive to learn the language and use it in your career. And, because I think we're always trying to make the case for students to learn Portuguese. We did get one question about why we are speaking in English and not in Portuguese. And I'll just address that quickly. And that's that, so PALCUS is a Portuguese American institution. We are based here in the US. And our webinars are usually conducted in English for a couple reasons. One, because most of everybody will understand English, not everybody can understand Portuguese. And then secondly, I, as the host, I'm not fluent in Portuguese, so we would have to find another host to host one in Portuguese, which is not completely out of the question, but I just wanted to clarify the reason for why we do conduct these webinars in English for now, at least. So if you have any other questions about that, I'm happy to answer them. But this is great data, João. I'm so glad you have this slide here. I think it's really important for everybody to understand.
Thank you so much, Angela. I just would like to mention as well that the South Hemisphere is actually, especially Africa, it's the continent that people see to grow numbers, and I'll show you why in the next slides. So you can go further. So here you can see some of the countries that speak Portuguese, and where we have those 260 million people in 9 countries. As you can see, at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 countries are in Africa. That's why the Southern Hemisphere is really important, related to numbers and the growing of the Portuguese language. But of course, East Timor in Asia is also an important country for us. And also Portuguese is also spoken in Macau, in China, in the territory of Macau, and all over the places, and significant Portuguese speaking diaspora. A lot of immigration from Portugal are in the United States, Canada, and a lot of countries in Europe, as you know. So we have big numbers, and of course this brings also an economic value to the language, because you can just imagine how many economic relationships and diplomatic relationships between all these countries. We do work on our diplomatic network in the United States, works with different embassies here related to the promotion of the Portuguese language, and we will speak today about the NEWL exam. It's another project or type of approach that we are doing with several countries in the United States that have diplomatic representation. And of course, speaking about these countries, we should not forget about the CPLP, which is the community of Portuguese-speaking countries in the world. It's a big organization that promotes dialogue concerning issues about these member states, and of course different issues such as language, health, education, culture, and so on. And also bring some facts here that I already spoke about them in the previous slide from Camões, but like I said, in 2050 we expect at least 300 million people speaking Portuguese in the world, and then global network between all these countries. So some of these facts are available. Here we have a map where we can see actually where these countries are located. Of course, we just pointed the slide from the CPLP just points the flags, and some of the organizations that are really important, the European Union, the CDAO in Africa, in Abuja, of course, Mercosur, and Asian and SADC in the Southern Africa region. So these are organizations that really work for the same goals, economic goals, and also promotion of the Portuguese language.
Excellent.
Then these are some, you know, some international organizations that work with Portuguese as official language. I'll point mainly, you know, European Union, of course, and also, like I said, SADC. It's a really important organization in Southern Africa, and ECOWAS, and of course all the other ones. And Mercosur is really important for South America and for the whole common market of South America, which integrates Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay, of course.
Great.
So Portuguese is taught in the United States in elementary and secondary levels. So this is the levels that we, as Education Office, are very focused on. The Portuguese is taught in Portuguese community schools, basically, which are schools of the Portuguese diaspora, mainly in Portuguese associations and clubs in different regions of the US, and of course in public-private schools all over America. We do support these schools with training for teachers, materials such as, you know, books for language, and also all kind of materials that teachers can use in class with the students. And we have some partnerships with different publishers in Portugal, such as Portiditora and Língua, that help us through the Camões to support these schools with different types of new materials for different didactics, such as Portuguese as a foreign language, second language, and even for Portuguese heritage speakers. And then the states where mostly common, we teach Portuguese at elementary and second level are Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Washington, D.C., and Maryland, New York, Connecticut, California, Florida, Utah, and many other states. Regarding numbers of students, teachers, and schools and courses for 2017 and 18, we have in the United States 17,000 students, almost actually 18,000 students, which is a lot. If you can think about the network of Camões all over the world, I would say that the United States is the biggest country in numbers of students for all the network for Camões Institute. So it's a lot of students. And we can see here on this map some of the dominant areas where Portuguese is taught. Basically, California is a big state, as you can see on the west coast, and Utah has a big program, a bilingual program, mainly with Brazil, but we are starting negotiations with the Department of Education. And then the East Coast, all over Florida, and also New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts, and of course Pennsylvania, and in the region of Washington, D.C., Manassas, Virginia, all that region is where we have schools offering Portuguese language.
I was surprised to see Utah highlighted. I would have expected Idaho before that because of the Portuguese community up there. What do you attribute to Utah being one of the dominant states?
Bilingual education department through the Department of Education. They started long time ago with the Mormons, big programs, and they have laws in the state that do protect bilingual education. So they've started Memorandums of Understanding with Brazil long time ago. We've worked with them during the ACTFL program in 2017, and we are actually on the verge to sign a Memorandum of Understanding between Camões and Utah. That is one of our goals for 2018, to start a Memorandum of Understanding with the Utah State Department of Education.
That's great.
So we can bring out teachers from Portugal to Utah.
That's amazing. We do have a question. How can we find out which schools teach Portuguese?
So you can find that through us, to the Education Department. We have a list of schools that actually teach not only the Portuguese community schools, but also the public schools. So each of our contacts with that I gave in the beginning of the presentation, either myself or José Adão, we do have a list with that information.
And we're going to actually show your website at the end of your slide. So maybe you can show where people on the website where people can find that. Yeah. So that'd be great. Okay.
So in higher education, we do have at least, I would say 13,000 students learning Portuguese. According to the MLA report in 2013, there was already 12,000 students learning Portuguese at higher education all over colleges and universities in America. And I'm sure the data is growing fast, because now with the NEWL exam and with the recognition of College Board, numbers will grow even more, because I think there are conditions for people to get credits for Portuguese language now.
Right, for sure.
So Camões has established some memorandums of understanding that are really important for us to continue the promotion of Portuguese language in the US. One of them is with the Massachusetts Department of Education, that was celebrated actually before 2010. That was just a renewal. But we started in 2009 here, myself, as a consultant for the Ministry of Education, and after as a consultant for the Camões Institute, and that allows us to bring Portuguese visiting teachers from Portugal to several school districts in Massachusetts under a J1 visa. So we've been bringing a lot of teachers to teach in Massachusetts to all these schools, public schools. And then we also have a memorandum with Miami-Dade Public Schools. I've heard today that Alberto Carvalho, which was the superintendent of Miami-Dade, is now going to be the chancellor for New York Public Schools. Actually, it was José Adão that actually informed me today. So it's very good, because Alberto Carvalho is a very fan of the Portuguese language. He's also Portuguese, and we signed a memorandum of understanding with them related to improve the quality and development of Portuguese language teaching in Florida, in the region of Miami, of course. And we are supporting a few public schools in Miami, as well as community schools in Palm Coast and other areas of Florida. So it's a vast region where we also want to invest in Portuguese language. Also with the Luso-American Education Foundation to promote Portuguese language in public and Portuguese community schools in California, which also involves the training of teachers and the support of two experienced and qualified instructors of Portuguese, such as Dinis Borja and José Luís Silva, and all our network of Camões lecturers as well at Berkeley University and Santa Barbara University and other universities in California that have been helping teachers of Portuguese language to promote and disseminate the Portuguese language teaching. Also, we have several, I can't even count them with my hands, protocols between Camões and US universities and colleges all over the US, where basically the Camões funds all these programs of Portuguese to promote Portuguese language and culture, and also with Portuguese community schools in Connecticut, New Jersey, and New York. These schools became associated schools of Camões and follow common standards and procedures. And the protocols also allow them to have permanent and yearly financial support, because some of these students, they do the certification exams with the Camões Institute. So now I would like to speak a little bit about this partnership between American councils, and of course we would pass the information or the PowerPoint to Huma Manati from American councils, but after this slide I will go to my website of the Camões Institute, that I think it's important. But just to mention this quickly, this partnership is very, very, very important to the Camões Institute and to our education office, because allow us to create more liaison with the schools and universities in the United States that are currently teaching Portuguese, and also we want to disseminate this information to all the schools that can host a NEWL exam center for American councils, because Camões has just signed a Memorandum of Understanding with American councils that provides some financial support not only for Portuguese and Portuguese American students to take the NEWL Portuguese exam, but also to offset the costs for teachers of Portuguese to attend the professional development workshops in Washington, D.C., or any other parts of the United States, because Huma Manati and all the team for American councils are also available to host some other workshops in different areas of the United States regarding the NEWL exams. And we are in the process of meeting together to discuss more activities for 2019. Of course, the Embassy of Portugal and all our diplomatic network and different kinds of professional organizations have been helping us, and schools and teachers. I have no words to thank everyone to help, promote this exam that has the recognition from College Board, from the AP program. And this is really important for the Portuguese language in the United States, because it will allow that from now on, any single student that is studying Portuguese will have credits for the university, and also for placement if they want to continue, if they want to further their studies in Portuguese language at a higher level of education.
Yeah, I think it's important. It's a big accomplishment, like you said, because students are in school to get credit, right? And so they're always going to take classes where they can get school credit that helps them graduate. So it's a big step for us. So congratulations to everybody involved in that. It was really amazing.
Thank you.
And so now we're going to go out to your website, right?
Yes. I just wanted to make a final comment here.
Okay.
That Portuguese language is a vast spectrum of many different sounds, cultural expressions, perspectives, traditions, art forms, and ways of life. Some may see them as differences, but in reality, we view them as diversity united by a common language, which allows us to learn from each other and broaden an understanding of the world. Through this diversity, it is possible to discover many dimensions within Portuguese, and with it, a new world of opportunities. The possibilities are endless: academic exchanges, research, business, travel, and much more. I could be here talking like 3 hours about all these different projects. We work with different entities in Portugal as well, besides VLAD and Fulbright Portugal, and so many programs available. And I'm welcome to receive any phone calls or emails from anyone that will be interested in, in different topics that I didn't mention on my presentation.
Excellent. Okay, and I'm going to hand controls over to you, and you can go out and share your site.
Okay, I'm going to show my screen.
Yep, I see it.
We're going to go here. So this is the Camões website, and I've put the English version here on the English flag. So we can all see. Basically, I'm not going to show all the potential of the website because there is so many resources and we have limited time. But I'm going to start maybe with, so we have these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 important buttons. The home, which is, the general information regarding all the cooperation and development that Camões has in different countries, and as one of their goals to promote cooperation, and also the language part, I would say, and cultural part of the Camões Institute: learning Portuguese, teaching Portuguese, Portuguese certification, researching Portuguese, and cultural activities. I would maybe start here with the e-learning, because I think it's really important for some of our teachers who will be listening to us, and also students. So I'll start with this one because I think it's important. So if someone wants to learn Portuguese, what type of courses do we offer? Basically, Portuguese as a foreign language in different levels of proficiency, you know, specifically with the European framework, levels A1 to C2, and having the A as the initial or introduction to the language, B as the intermediate courses, and C as advanced courses, and then different kind of courses for specific purposes, like Portuguese for business, or Portuguese and law, Portuguese media, Portuguese tourism and hospitality. And then we also have offered in the past Portuguese courses for teachers, for continuous training for teachers, and we've been offering them, and we also actually are offering them every single 6 months. So you can see all these different courses related to the continuous training courses for teachers. We have pedagogical differentiation approaches in language teaching, creative writing, linguistic pragmatics, didactics of Portuguese, and you know, and so other language courses such as mobile technologies and so on. I'm just trying to find here virtual center. I think it's this one. So give me 1 second. What we do in Portuguese? Okay. So online e-learning is this one.
Now, one thing too, João, is if sometimes PALCUS will actually get inquiries about how do we start a Portuguese language program, whether it's, you know, a local community school, you know, after school program, or getting a public school to offer it. As you're showing some of your resources here, if there's anything there that you can show as a resource that people could, as a starting point, I think that would be helpful too, because we do get that question a lot.
So we do have also this virtual center, which is the Camões Resource Center for schools and teachers with teaching activities, education activities, thematic, and so on. I can show you this one. Related to programs and curriculum, we do have the programs for Camões Institute that we actually facilitate to schools. So with the different programs for different levels that I mentioned, specifically from A1 to C2. In this case of the United States, special for elementary and secondary schools, our levels go from A1 to C1, and they have to contact me as the education officer, or either José Adão, to get those programs, and then we can give, you know, pedagogical support, like I said, through our publishers and to our resource centers. So we also have education activities in the website of the Camões Institute, like didactic resources, like you know, different kinds of resources that teachers can use in class. I was just trying to check here. Okay, we also have grants for different students and also teachers that the Camões scholarship program is intended to support and promote. One of them is about study and research of the Portuguese language and culture, and then scientific teaching and training of Portuguese as a second language, and also teaching and advanced learning in the area of conference translation and interpretation. A lot of students and parents also contact us about Portuguese language and culture, some summer courses, and and um, and we've been giving them, you know, all these possibilities. To some of them, they want to do a Portuguese language course in the summer in Portugal. So we have different universities that we can advise for students to go, and you know, and so on. So I think I've shown you everything here. The Portuguese certification is this. Give me a second. Portuguese language centers. Okay, this is where you find all the Portuguese language centers all over the world, and in the United States is on the South in America. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I'm not gonna lose the time to look for it because I'm seeing the time running.
But that's the page, so that's good.
Babies, that's it. I would also like to show you quickly the couple website where also people look for the education office to obtain Portuguese citizenship in the US. We have a few offices here in the United States, namely the Embassy of Portugal, the consulate in Boston, and also the consulate in Newark and Berkeley University in California, that we do host exams for any citizens that want to get the Portuguese citizenship. So we are a exam center for Portuguese here in the US. And saying that, I think if people have questions, they can ask me after. Maybe I'll pass the information out to Huma to speak about the NEWL exam.
Okay, sounds good. So I'm going to pass. It's not letting me. No, I think I have to go out here. It's not giving me back. Not letting me take back the host. João. It's so funny. It's not letting me take back host control like we did in our practice round. Of course, right?
Yeah.
Maybe if you stopped sharing. There we go. Yep. No, it's still not letting me do it. It's so bizarre. It's beauty of live demo of live sessions, right? We did this. We did a prep session earlier, and it worked out perfectly. And now it's not working for us. Are you able to possibly? Yeah, thank you, Dinah. You still see João as the host. Yeah, João, is there can you see if there's an option to make me the host again? If you hover over my name on the console.
Where should be that?
You click on participants.
Participants, okay.
And then if you hover over my name.
Yes, I've got you. Okay.
Okay, there we go. Okay. And now I can oh, well, I'm going to actually show my screen again because I have the slides. That's right. Okay, so now, Huma, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining. And thank you, Angela and João, for inviting me to this webinar and giving me the opportunity to speak a little bit about NEWL and American Councils. To let you know what American Councils, who we are. We are an independent nonprofit organization engaged in support of the study and teaching of critical languages, second language acquisition, cultural immersion programs, and language assessments. Today I will be speaking primarily about one of our assessments called NEWL. In this slide that we are looking at currently, there is a number of partnerships that we have developed over a year or so with NEWL. So to inform you what NEWL stands for is, it stands for National Examination in World Languages. It is primarily a joint project of American Councils and the College Board, carried out in cooperation with ACTFL. They primarily administer the speaking in two sections of the exam, speaking and writing. Our partners are really important to the success of our project, as Camões has so kindly offered so much help to us in the process of developing NEWL Portuguese. We are currently working with them to develop European Portuguese items for the exam that we will be administering in April. So our partners are really important. In addition to the College Board and ACTFL, we do have language-specific partners, Camões Institute being for the Portuguese, ACTR, American Council's Teachers of Russian, are our endorsers and partners for the Russian language. ICANN, International Korean Educators Networks, are for the NEWL Korean, and as well as Qatar Foundation International, that are our supporters for the Arabic NEWL language. There are a number of different ways that our partners help us out. Specifically, they support dissemination of information. They help out with informing all the Portuguese or other NEWL languages into their communities and member institutions that they may have. So it's a lot easier for us to communicate with these various communities that we might not have firsthand access to, but by joining and partnering with other organizations, we are able to achieve that a lot more efficiently and inform them about the NEWL exam a lot more quickly. They also help with presenting various opportunities through funding. I think João mentioned that they are supporting us with giving funds to students who are American, Portuguese Americans, so that they are able to take the exam and their fees are covered by the Camões Institute. They are also helping out both Camões and our other partners with professional development seminars. They help pay for teachers who come in and join and learn more about the NEWL exam, and it gives them a direction of how to prepare their students, how to prep for the exam and to administer the exam. So those are some of the ways that our partners help us out, and we are always actively seeking to partner with other organizations that share similar vision and similar values, such as Portuguese language being a common ground here for us. So that is definitely something we are always in the lookout for. What is NEWL? On the slide, what NEWL is, it's a online based assessment. It is designed for high school students of the less commonly taught languages. It covers, we cover 4 languages: Arabic, Korean, Portuguese, and Russian. The exam itself is modeled after the AP, so it's an AP equivalent exam with potential possibility to get credit or advanced placement, and I'll mention in a little bit, I'll explain why I said potential. There are 4 different skills that we test, those 4 being reading, listening, writing, and speaking. The proficiency levels that we target starts from novice high to intermediate high. Because the exam is designed for high school students, those are typically the levels that we would look for to determine their proficiency skills. Again, the target student population would be heritage, non-heritage, or learners of foreign languages, and especially those who are motivated to get college credit or placement. So just also to just give you a little bit about NEWL info is that it is an unbiased exam. Currently, AP does not offer AP Portuguese, therefore NEWL is what they're endorsing.
That's good to know.
In the next slide, we've just put in sometimes the exam approximately lasts 3 hours, 60 minutes allocated for the reading, 45 minutes for listening, and 30 minutes for each writing and speaking section. Each of these components equally contribute to the final scores that the students receive. The next slide is an endorsement that we have received from the College Board. This is specifically is very important to us. We are mentioned on the College Board's website. However, we just recently also attained a letter that more specifically and more thoroughly talks about NEWL, and I've just added a little bit of it where NEWL is compared to the AP equivalent by the College Board, and it's also recommended, College Board recommends it to its member institutions to treat it the same way as they would if they were receiving or we're going to translate the AP scores. So that's really great for us as we reach out to various universities and colleges. I think earlier we touched on the subject of how important it is that students will get credit or advanced placement at the college level. And that's exactly what one of our projects are that we are working within NEWL is to inform as many colleges and universities as possible. First of all, about NEWL, because NEWL was launched officially last year, so not very many schools know about it. So having this letter from the College Board really makes sure that they, first of all, they're already established and they're aware of what AP is. So to have a letter that talks about AP and NEWL in comparison to one another, it just helps for us to educate the schools and as well as the higher ed a lot faster. What we are doing currently about Portuguese with our Camões Institute is we are reaching out to their member institutions to inform them about NEWL and then also request them to grant credit or advanced placement. So again, that's another reason why it's very important for us to partner with organizations that have this reach so that we can inform as many students but institutions as well. There are a number of institutions that currently do give credit or advanced placement to students for NEWL scores, most notably Cornell University, Columbia, University of Maryland, DePaul University, and Purdue. But we are currently in the process of putting together a list of other ones. But again, the exam has to go on for many, many years for us to receive enough requests from students to send out their scores to various universities and then be able to create that list. So there is going to be a little bit of a process for us to attain that list, but that's definitely something we are working with our partners and with students directly as well. The next slide, those are all the various in the little chart there are all the levels on the actual scale. However, NEWL targets exactly that mid-range, starting from novice high to intermediate high. The next slide talks a little bit about the test design overview. And again, it's focused on the proficiency, actual proficiency guidelines. We follow those to create our test items. It also reflects the College Board's World Languages Framework. The items being the test questions, are all based on domains and performances indicators of the World Readiness Standards for Learning Languages. Additionally, items are written all at the proficiency level of the prompt. Again, item being the question and the prompt being the passage or the actual content that the student would read and then would answer in the multiple choice. Prompts are all in the target language. So all of our passages or the content that the students read are all in, for instance, Portuguese or any of the other NEWL languages. However, the multiple choice questions are all in English, including the instructions as well. The content domains that we follow are based on 7 main domains: culture, daily life, government, business, entertainment, science, and technology. So so the exam is not based on one topic or 2 topics. We have a variety of topics that we cover to ensure that the final result and the students' understanding sort of covers all those areas. We also have a variety of topics and genres within those domains that we test on. The next talks a little bit about the scoring model. So the scoring model is very comparable to the AP grade. It in fact follows that. And also, so in addition to giving the NEWL score, composed of the score, we also provide for each of the section ACT-full proficiency scale as well. So for instance, for reading, listening, writing, and speaking, we provide ACT-full scores for each of those subdomain as well. Although the very final score will be given on the NEWL score. As we reach out to universities and colleges, our recommendation typically goes as the chart describes. So the NEWL score of 5 would typically, the placement suggestion would be for the first semester of third year. NEWL score of 4 would be second semester of second year, and so on and so forth till the end. I wanted to take a moment and talk about why I earlier mentioned potentially get scores, credit, or credit for the NEWL scores. Every college or university has its own policies about how they would use the NEWL score, and as well that's true for the AP scores as well. There isn't any one resource where you could go and you could see all the universities how they treat the AP scores, for instance. So it is based on each university, and therefore, depending on how they treat it would differ as well. Currently, we're working with a couple of universities where the university itself is not able to answer us. We have to refer to the language-specific department to determine so there is a little bit of a process within each university, but all in all, as far as the over 6,000 institutions that the College Board is members with, it does recommend it to all of its members institutions for credit or placement. Again, that is subject to that university policies, and how they might determine that is up to them. The NEWL scores are also used for various reasons. So the slide is showing a demo of the certificate we send out along with the score reports themselves. So each student will receive the certificate that they can use for their high school, and again, depending on the high school, they might use it to record it into their transcripts, or they might not. That's also high school dependent. Another project that we are working with is, you may have heard of the Seal of Biliteracy. It's an award that is given to graduating high school students across 32 states as of February 28, that only students that show proficiency in 2 or more languages are awarded. Currently, out of those 32 states, a growing number of states are accepting NEWL as an approved assessment. So this is a great opportunity for NEWL and for us to reach out to as many students as possible, because a number of these students in the less commonly taught languages often don't see a motivation to keep their language. So we are hoping that through the Seal of Biliteracy and through various ways that we're trying to reach students, that's no longer the case, that we are targeting these populations that don't have currently a national exam to go to and seek credit at the college level. We also give away, including giving individual score reports to the students, we also put together a composite list and their scores to their teachers as well, so that the teachers can prepare them further, the students further, either if they're taking it again another year, or if they were taking the practice exam and would like to take the main exam. The score report, while I don't have a demo of that here, the score report includes the ACT-full descriptors, guidelines, and understanding. It goes into the detail of how each student received the score they received, with the statistical analysis that we have, the quality control systems that we have arranged here to determine that, and not only give just the scores, but actually explain how we arrived at those scores as well, so the teachers have a better understanding of how best to prepare students when applicable if they were taking the exam again. My apologies for the typo there. So the score reports are reported July of each year. I think that I used the PowerPoint from 2017. So last year's the scores were reported in July of 2017, and the same would remain true this year again for 2018 as well.
Okay.
I have just took a slide to show you the dates for this year, and we do have a practice exam that we offer. It's especially at these beginning of the launch of this program. We want to make sure students and teachers have an opportunity to go through our system. Our exams are all online based, so schools need to have a computer lab, and that practice exam sort of gives them the opportunity to test out and do a dry run with their staff and the students get an opportunity to get familiarized with the type of questions we have before they take the main exam. Again, this also follows the AP, so it falls during that same 2-week when the AP is administered, Portuguese falling right on April 26th. And we also have a late testing date of May 4th for all students that may have a conflict with another class or test, that they could take it as well. So we do offer various dates to ensure all the students are covered, those who are at least interested. The next slide is the lab setup dates. I briefly mentioned that these are all online exams. Although these are online exams, they're very user-friendly. Our team does an incredible job here, our IT team, to ensure 2 weeks before the exam, all the computers are set up, that the computer, a lab technician at the school and a lab technician here, our staff, are able to coordinate all of the details necessary for the exam, so that during the exam there are no problems as we administer the exam. And as we encounter any issues, practice exam is typically that time we figure out, oh, they have on and off internet connection, or a student's mic was not working and things like that, and we make sure for the main exam there are no issues at all, just because all of those would be contributing into the final score the student will receive. So we want to make sure that there are no technical issues as those scores are compiled. So those are the reason why we have these setup dates for the exam. The next slide is just the fees for each one. Again, the fees that we have for each exams are adopted from the AP test. So each year it tends to go up $1, at least in the past 6 or 7 years that I've been working with the program. It started with 1991, 92, and 94. So it's safe to assume that next year it might be $95 per student. We do have reduced fee available for $53 for students who qualify for free lunch. And again, we have other fundings for each language available as well, such as Camões Institute's grant that they gave us. And by the way, that's already gone. Students have already applied for it. The 2000 was used up before we knew it. And then finally, I have also added the international fees, because the exams are all online based. We have international schools that also apply for the test. We have had tests in Russia and Brazil and Dubai. Currently, we're working with a school in Dubai, the American University. We have also administered the exam in Jordan, Amman. So those international fees are a little bit different, because we do have to accommodate the test, especially given the time difference. Sometimes it falls at 2 in the morning here for us. So the fees simply reflect that as well, and also follow the AP guide. So yeah, with that, this ends my presentation. And if I can help answer questions, I'd be more than happy to. And maybe after that, or now, I can show you the very quickly.
Yeah, while I'm handing over controls to Huma, so I imagine through your working with João, you have a list of all the high schools that teach Portuguese in the U.S. So most of those schools know about it. But does a high school have to be registered with your organization or a particular organization in order for the students to administer the exam? And the reason I'm asking is because, let's say, for example, a high school student happens to see this webinar, and maybe they are taking Portuguese at their high school, but their high school didn't let them know about this exam. Can they go ahead and take it anyway? Or does it has to actually be administered through their school?
Actually, that's a great question. And why don't I show you the website now? Because that was one of the topics I wanted to cover.
Okay.
And that this presentation will be available. So I did want to mention that. Can we go to the website? Okay. I I will share the. Can everyone see my?
Mm-hmm. Yep, I can see your website now.
Okay, let me make this. So our website, and yes, in order for a student, to answer your question, a student could go in and submit an application form. So you can either apply right here or on the main page as well. So yes, a student is able to do it. However, in order to do that, we will need the testing center information. And the testing center information being where you'll be taking the exam. So if your own enrolled school is either unable to administer the exam, or let's say is unavailable, the computer lab is simply unavailable for that day of the exam, then the students can reach out to other test centers in their area, and you can access that list on our website as well, called Available Test Centers. And here students can, it's a growing list, so it's literally growing on weekly basis as new centers register. So you can see, for instance, by state, and then a point of contact is typically listed that you can reach out to. The ones that don't have a point of contact simply means they are either out of room, they are unable to accommodate outside students, or they have reached their capacity. So to avoid too many emails to that point of contact, we just simply went ahead and removed it. So that way, the only people who are still listed here are the ones who are actually available and can give you a seat to take the exam. So yes, this resource is absolutely available here, and as you can see, it's a good list. It's comparing to, for instance, last year, we didn't have as many, and thank you to João and his team, Jose in New York. They have been an incredible help to grow this list as well. So they could come here and similarly, if a high school right now is listening to this presentation and want to actually host, and they might not have their own students to take any of these languages, you can also become a test center without having your own. And that application is right here. You can simply click on it. The dates are here for your review. And it's a very simple one-time application. You just list the information about your school and dates and things like that, and then automatically your school name will appear on this list, available test centers, for those students to come and take advantage of your test centers. And it's a great exposure for your school as well, if that is something you have the capabilities of doing. It's a great exposure to inform other, and we have a number of universities who don't have their own students, of course, because they're universities, but they have opened up their doors to other students to come and take this exam. And the website, while we are here, also have other resources, such as the specific information about exam construct on each of the languages, of how the exam is created, just a little bit more detailed than perhaps I went over today. Frequently asked questions. We also have sample test items available here. We talked about the sample score report earlier, but here is what the score report in its full length would look like. It just talks about that the College Board has endorsed it. This is a Korean example, but the Portuguese one would say Portuguese, of course. Additionally, talks about each of the students' proficiency and its how it was evaluated. Actually, it's at the bottom of this page. So first of all, students will get this score on each one, but then it also goes in detail about each of those proficiency that they have received. One thing I did not talk about, and that's the star, in case you're wondering. So we do record students who may reach higher than intermediate high. So although we only cover up to intermediate high, but let's say during the oral part of the exam, if a student absolutely was incredible and his speaking was really good, they do indicate that to tell us and to inform us that this kid had more than intermediate high. We don't know if it was advanced or advanced low or advanced high, but we do know it was definitely higher than advanced high that we cover. So that's the reason for that, to inform for transparency purposes as well. That's all with the website, and if you have more questions, I'm happy to answer.
That's awesome. So, I mean, essentially this means that, I think we've said this before, but any person or any student in high school that's taking Portuguese or that maybe speaks Portuguese fluently can take this test and get AP placement credit or AP, when they're applying to colleges and things like that. So this, whereas before that was not the case. If you were taking Portuguese, it was because you were interested in your language or in the language in general, but you weren't going to really get any credit for it. And now that's not the case, right? You get
that is correct.
Credit.
I should also mention that so I have had one student so far for Portuguese who applied at American University, and American University simply said, don't know this exam. For obvious reasons, it's a very new exam. So we reached out to American University and asked them what information would they require in order to treat NEWL scores just the way they would AP scores. So they simply continued the conversation by asking us for more info, a letter from the College Board, which we supplied, and right now everything is under review. So instead of completely rejecting it, they are able to evaluate it further and how they would give credit for it after all the information that we provided. So if you do, it's to all the students who may take the exam and then send their scores, we are here for the step as necessary. So a lot of times schools might just have another letter. The score reports alone might not be enough for them. And that's absolutely what we're here to do. And that's exactly what happened with DePaul University and Purdue University. We simply provided more information and the student was able to receive credit for their NEWL scores.
Well, that's great to know that you are there as a resource, and it's so if a student is having trouble getting their credit, that you will help them. So that's really good to know as well. Excellent. So, Huma, if you wouldn't mind passing controls back to me, I think I'm having the same
Sure.
problem.
Okay.
Yep, there we go. Awesome. Thank you. Let's share my screen again. So if there's any questions that anybody has that's still with us, I know we're going a little bit long, but it's really good information to share with everybody. So I'll just go ahead and wrap it up here and to say that this webinar is being recorded and it will be posted online both on our website as well as our YouTube channel. And we do make PDFs of all of our presentations available if anybody wanted to download that and take a look at it and make note of links and things like that. These are resources to be shared with friends and family and anybody interested in Portuguese language instruction or starting a school, or if you have sons or daughters or nieces or nephews that are in high school and taking Portuguese, this is really important information to share with them. And so we'll make sure that we disperse this recording out to all of our members and to the community at large through social media and every means possible, because it's all about sharing information, right, and making people aware of the resources available to them. These webinars are available for sponsorship, and if anybody's interested in doing that, please get in touch with us. And with that, I think I'm just going to wrap it up and say thank you so much, both João and Huma, for taking the time to share this really important information. And I hope that those who attended today, as well as those who will watch this at a later date, will find the information helpful, and that we help more high school students take the exam and get credit for their hard work in taking Portuguese in high school.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Angela.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. And with that, we're going to say até a próxima, as I say with my friend Maria sometimes. Until next time, thank you for joining and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Thank you, everybody. All righty. Bye-bye.